Maruchan and Nissan built their empires on speed, flavor, and comfort, but beneath that convenience lies a chemistry experiment disguised as food. The vibrant broth and enticing aroma are often the result of engineered flavor compounds, not real ingredients. Sodium levels soar, preservatives prolong artificial freshness, and reused industrial oils quietly add invisible risks. Nongshim and Mama use the same playbook, layering synthetic spice, color, and scent to keep consumers hooked through crave cycles that mimic satisfaction but never quite deliver it.
Don't get fooled by the label. Subscribe now to uncover what's really behind your favorite brands. And get the truth big food doesn't want you to see.
Even Indomie, beloved for its bold flavors, hides palm oil refined far beyond safety limits, contributing to both health dangers and environmental harm. What looks like a harmless quick meal is for many a long-term trade of well-being for convenience, a cycle that thrives on our hunger for immediacy rather than nourishment. The pattern across these brands reveals a food industry optimized for addiction, not care. Flavor packets engineered to excite, packaging that leaches microplastics when heated, and labeling that obscures chemical reality all point to a system built on illusion. Yet alternatives exist. Paulo and Rio prove that instant noodles don't have to compromise integrity, offering air-dried noodles, natural bases, and transparency that honors both taste and health. The difference isn't just in the recipe, it's in respect for the eater. Choosing brands that value authenticity over engineering is more than a dietary decision, it's an act of reclaiming trust in what we consume, reminding us that food should nourish, not manipulate. There's a dark truth behind that warm, salty, satisfying bowl of instant noodles sitting in your kitchen cabinet. It's cheap, it's fast, it's comforting, and millions of people around the world rely on it every day. But behind the foil packets and steaming cups lies a deeply flawed industry, one that's built on manipulating your taste buds, compromising your health, polluting the environment, and replacing cultural heritage with synthetic shortcuts. Let's talk about it. The brands you know and trust, Maruchan, Nissan, Nongshim, Mama, Indomie, and several others have built empires by pushing a product that's not just nutritionally empty, but chemically engineered to make you come back for more. These aren't just noodles, these are products of industrial design, formulated not to nourish you, but to addict you. The first red flag is the sodium. One serving of instant noodles can deliver over 1,000 milligrams of sodium, nearly half of the recommended daily intake. And let's be honest, no one stops at one serving. This isn't just about salt, it's about what that salt does to your body. Over time, it wears down your cardiovascular system, it stresses your kidneys, it slowly chips away at your long-term health while feeding you the illusion of convenience. But sodium isn't working alone. Preservatives and chemical stabilizers are baked into the formulation. These additives are there to give the product an unnatural shelf life, to keep the noodles from going stale in transit or storage, and they're not labeled front and center, you have to dig for them. Compounds like TBHQ, a petroleum-based preservative, are common in mainstream brands. Others use phosphate additives and synthetic flavor enhancers that are known to disrupt digestion and hormonal balance in sensitive individuals. All of this is legal. All of this is on the shelf, and most people never realize they're not just eating noodles, they're eating a chemical blend crafted for shelf stability and repeat sales. Packaging is no safer. A disturbing number of instant noodle cups are still made from expanded polystyrene, also known as styrofoam. It's lightweight and cheap, sure, but when heated, it releases microplastics and a chemical called styrene, which is suspected to have long-term health impacts. The very act of pouring hot water into those cups turns them into potential chemical leaching devices. And this isn't a theory, it's a documented risk that the industry has been slow to address. Beyond your own body, this plastic pollution is devastating the planet. These noodle cups are rarely recyclable. They clog landfills. They break down into microplastics that find their way into oceans and soil. The companies know this, but switching to sustainable packaging cuts into profits, so they delay, deny, and deflect. And yet they keep selling. Why? Because of flavor. The flavor packets in these noodles are a feat of chemical engineering. packaging. They're not designed to taste natural. They're designed to taste addictive. Salt, sugar, MSG, spices, artificial meat esters, all blended into a crave loop that hits hard and fades fast, leaving you wanting more. The sensory illusion is calculated. You taste richness and depth for a moment, and then it's gone. So you slurp more and buy more. It's not an accident. It's a strategy. Spicy noodles are a perfect example. Products like Samyang's Bulldog aren't just hot, they're punishing. But that's part of the marketing. People chase the burn for the adrenaline rush. They film themselves gasping and sweating, turning it into a challenge. But what they're also doing is damaging their digestion, irritating their stomach lining, dehydrating their systems, and encouraging others to join the cycle. The heat triggers endorphins, and the brain confuses that chemical reaction for pleasure. It's manipulation dressed up as a meal. Worse still, many of these products pretend to offer authenticity. They come flavored like shrimp tom yum, spicy beef, or chicken pho, but the ingredients list tells a different story. There's no real shrimp, no beef bones simmered for hours, just synthetic esters mimicking the smell and taste of real food. You get a hint of memory, a flash of familiarity, and none of the nutrition, tradition, or technique. It's nostalgia in a packet, and it's hollow. This imitation game dilutes food culture. What used to take hours of preparation by skilled hands is now mimicked by machines and chemicals, and the more we consume these products, the more we forget what the real thing tastes like. This is how industrial food erodes tradition. It replaces quality with quantity, craft with convenience, and we pay for it with our health, our environment, and our culture. But not every brand is playing this game. There are companies out there, like Paulo and Rio, who are proving that instant noodles don't have to be poison. These brands use air-dried noodles instead of flash-fried. They cut out the preservatives. They use real ingredients, like miso, seaweed, and vegetables, instead of synthetic ones. And they're transparent. You know what you're eating. You know where it came from. And that matters. Their products cost a little more, but they also come with integrity. And when you break it down, the price difference isn't between expensive and cheap. It's between honest and deceptive. The truth is, most people never think twice about the ingredients in their noodles. They don't look at the sodium. They don't question the packaging. They don't recognize the additives, because we've been trained not to. Instant noodles are marketed as harmless, nostalgic, easy comfort food. But once you see what's behind the curtain, you realize that the real cost isn't on the receipt. It's in your body, it's in the soil, it's in the air, and it's in the cultural traditions we're letting fade away. You don't have to give up noodles. You just have to be smarter about them. Start reading labels. Avoid brands that list artificial flavors, preservatives, and oil powders. Reduce the amount of seasoning you use. Add real vegetables or eggs to bulk up the nutrition. Look for air-dried noodles. Support brands that list actual food as ingredients. And most importantly, understand that what you eat is a reflection of what you value. If you value ease over everything, the industry will keep feeding you garbage. But if you start demanding honesty, they'll have to change. The industry doesn't care about your health. It cares about repeat sales. That's why crave loops are engineered. That's why packaging is designed to feel nostalgic. That's why synthetic esters are used to mimic real food. You are a data point, a consumer, a number on a quarterly report. Unless you push back, brands like Paulo and Rio show it can be done differently. They use patience, simplicity, clean ingredients. They're not perfect, but they're proof that there's another path. A path where food is more than a commodity. It's a craft. And yes, it costs a little more, but so does anything worth doing right. If the food industry treated health, environment, and tradition with the same care they put into their marketing strategies, this wouldn't be a problem, but they don't. So it's on us to pay attention. Read the back of the package. Don't be fooled by flavor names or brand familiarity. If it doesn't say what it is, if it hides behind vague terms, if it smells like chemicals and salt, it's probably because that's what it is. If you've ever eaten instant noodles and felt bloated, exhausted, or weirdly thirsty afterward, That's not normal. That's your body reacting to excess sodium, preservatives, and additives. And it's not just you, it's millions of people, every day, getting just a little bit worse for wear. There's nothing comforting about chemical dependency disguised as a midnight snack. There's nothing nostalgic about styrofoam cups and oil reuse. And there's nothing authentic about shrimp flavor that's never touched the ocean. This isn't about being perfect. It's about being aware, about making better choices. Not every day, not every time, but enough times to shift the balance. Enough times to show the industry that we're watching. You deserve better than synthetic broth, dehydrated chemicals, and sodium bombs pretending to be dinner. You deserve real ingredients, honest brands, and food that doesn't trade health for hype. If you learned something today, hit like, share this with someone who eats these noodles regularly, drop a comment with the brands you've seen doing it right or wrong, and subscribe for more breakdowns like this one. The more we uncover, the stronger we get. Let's demand better. Together, let's keep going, because this conversation doesn't end at the ingredient list. It runs straight through global supply chains, industrial shortcuts, and the quiet way corporations count on your silence to keep moving product. You know what they don't want to talk about? The oil. Most major instant noodle brands rely on massive volumes of palm oil to pre-fry their noodles before they're dried and packaged. That oil is used, reused, and sometimes reused again in industrial settings that prioritize volume over quality. You ever open a pack of noodles and get a faint chemical smell before it's even cooked? That's not seasoning, that's residue, oxidized oil, degraded fats, and possibly elevated peroxide levels. Not only does this degrade the nutritional profile of what you're eating, it can produce compounds that are hard on your digestive system and even potentially harmful over time. And it gets worse. The environmental cost of this oil dependence is staggering. Palm oil plantations are one of the leading causes of deforestation, especially in countries like Indonesia and Malaysia. Forests are cleared, wildlife habitats are destroyed, indigenous communities are displaced. Also, multinational corporations can produce millions of packets of noodles every day at a cost that won't touch their margins. It's devastation, disguised as dinner. Still think that 29-cent pack of noodles is harmless. Let's break down what's really happening when you buy those top-shelf popular brands. You're participating in a system that not only ignores your health, but actively exploits fragile ecosystems and vulnerable communities just to keep costs low. And the worst part, it's all hidden. You're never told about the reused oil. You're never told about the carbon footprint. You're never told about the real human cost behind industrial food production. They just show you happy cartoon mascots and throw a fake shrimp on the package. It's all part of the illusion, and that illusion is global. Brands like Indomie, Mama, Samyang, and Nongshim dominate markets from Asia to Africa to the Americas. They bring with them not just calories, but a model of consumption that discourages cooking, undermines local cuisine, and funnels cultural identity into disposable packaging. Think about this: in many households, especially in working-class communities, instant noodles have become a staple, not an occasional snack, but a dietary foundation. And that's not by accident. That's the result of pricing strategies, global marketing campaigns, and supply chains optimized for saturation, not health. But we can't ignore what this food does when it becomes routine. When these noodles are eaten several times a week, sometimes even daily, the long-term consequences begin to stack up: high blood pressure, chronic kidney stress, inflammation, malnutrition masked by fullness. You feel full, but you're not nourished. You feel satisfied, but your body is still running on empty. And who's most affected? Kids, elderly people, low-income communities, people without access to fresh food or time to cook. They become test subjects in a corporate experiment on what happens when you feed people hyper-processed salt bombs long enough to call it normal. And then there's the trust factor. Food is supposed to mean something. It's supposed to nourish. It's supposed to reflect history, family, care. But when companies start replacing real ingredients with synthetic substitutes, when they start reducing whole meals to powder packets and flavor esters, they're not just cutting corners, they're eroding the very relationship we have with food. Nongshim's seafood noodles might never have seen a drop of actual fish stock. Maruchan's chicken flavor, no chicken, just artificial aroma and a pinch of yeast extract. The smells are designed to evoke a memory, not reality. Just the idea of flavor, enough to fool your senses for 2 or 3 bites, until you've already committed to the meal. That's not food. That's a product built on illusion, and the illusion is working, because too many of us have stopped asking questions. We're not supposed to notice that the broth leaves a filmy residue in the bowl. We're not supposed to question why every brand tastes vaguely the same. We're not supposed to ask why real vegetable, real protein, or real noodles aren't involved at all. But the second you do notice, you can't unsee it. You start to realize that for every engineered flavor packet, there's a real ingredient that was replaced. Garlic powder instead of garlic, shrimp essence instead of shrimp, MSG instead of umami. These swaps are silent but powerful. Over time they change your palate, they change your expectations, and eventually, they change what we accept as normal, but we don't have to accept it. This is where the newer, smaller brands come in, brands like Paulo, Rayo, and a growing handful of honest food makers that actually give a damn. These are companies using real spices, real stocks, noodles that are air-dried, not fried in overused oil. They're not selling illusions, they're selling food. And yes, they cost more, but let's talk about what you're actually paying for. Real ingredients, sustainable sourcing, ethical manufacturing, and the basic human decency of transparency. What's that worth to you? Because at some point, we have to stop letting price be the only factor that matters. If the food is cheap but leaves you sicker, sadder, and more disconnected from what you're eating, was it really a bargain? Look, nobody's saying give up noodles, but it's time to think critically about which noodles you buy, how often you eat them, and why the biggest brands keep hiding the truth behind flavor packets and packaging tricks. There's nothing wrong with craving comfort, but there's something deeply wrong with an industry that manipulates your cravings, exploits your trust, and pollutes the planet to keep you hooked. And that's what this all comes down to. Trust. Do you trust a company that doesn't tell you their oil has been reused 3 times? Do you trust a brand that puts shrimp flavor on the front and 0 shrimp in the ingredients? Do you trust a system that's made microplastics a normal part of a hot meal? Because if you don't, good. That means you're paying attention. That means you're part of the growing number of people who are asking better questions, reading the ingredients, and pushing for change. And that change doesn't have to be revolutionary. It starts with skipping the worst offenders, buying better alternatives, adding fresh ingredients to upgrade a basic meal, reducing how often you rely on convenience products that weren't built for your health. It starts with calling out what's wrong and supporting what's right. We don't need to accept food systems built on lies. We don't need to tolerate companies that exploit poverty, erode tradition, and gamble with our health to sell more packets. And we sure as hell don't need to stay silent about it. If you've ever felt like something was off after eating instant noodles, bloating, fatigue, a weird aftertaste, you're not alone, and you're not imagining it. That's what happens when food isn't really food anymore. That's what happens when what's supposed to nourish you is actually engineered for shelf life, not sustenance. Look at what these brands are prioritizing: longer storage, cheaper ingredients, faster production, and global scalability. But where in that equation is you? Where's your health? Your culture, your trust? Nowhere. And it's not just a food issue, it's a values issue. Because when an entire generation grows up thinking that neon orange powder and dehydrated meat flavor are what soup tastes like, something's broken. And it doesn't just affect your body, it reshapes what you think food should be. That's the silent damage. It's not about being perfect, it's about being honest. Honest with ourselves, honest with what we consume. Because every packet, every cup, every flavor explosion is a choice, not just a choice between brands, but a choice between truth and convenience. And now you know the truth. You know that many top-selling brands are loading their noodles with sodium levels that would make any doctor flinch. You know they're using chemical preservatives that keep noodles shelf-stable for years. You know the cups they come in could be leaching microplastics into your food every time you add boiling water. You know the flavor is artificial. You know the oil is often reused. You know the beef, the shrimp, the chicken is nothing but aroma, esters, and marketing fiction. So the question isn't, should you keep eating them? The question is, why would you? Because you have better options, safer options, more honest options, brands that believe in real ingredients, that believe in transparency, and that don't see you as a profit center, but as a person who deserves better. Every time you choose quality over convenience, you're sending a message. Every time you support a brand that cares, you're funding a better future. And every time you say no to the plastic, the sodium bombs, the artificial flavor masks, you're reclaiming something powerful, your right to food that respects you. So stay sharp, stay skeptical, and don't fall for the comfort trap disguised as tradition. You deserve real food, not a simulation. If this made you think differently about what's sitting in your pantry, hit that like button, share this with someone who needs to hear it, drop a comment with your go-to healthy swaps, and subscribe if you're ready to keep challenging the food industry one truth at a time. We're not done yet, and neither are you.